Hey guys, it's Chase here. Just Chase today. No Greg. He's out on vacation. Fucking lucky guy. Before we get to the clip, I just want to tell you what we're doing. We're going to be interviewing someone. His name is Edwin Cruz, and he's super rad. He's a filmmaker. He works in marketing. And that's really all I want to tell you right now. He's a good friend of mine, and picking his brain has always been really interesting to me, and I think it would be really interesting for you to hear about what it's like to be a filmmaker in 2020. We're in 2020, right? And to be a filmmaker in 2020 and still have to be like, I have to get a day job though, because this is what normal people do, and that's okay. That's rad, and he does it. Anyway, now let's cut to the This Week Today clip for the week. Go for it. Secrets are no fun, and they hurt someone. Whether you heard that during an episode of The Office or, just around the schoolyard. Hey, Brad, secrets hurt someone. The big secret is that Congress has reinstated the mortgage insurance tax deduction that had originally expired in 2017. So, that's the big secret that home buyers are very much familiar with right now. Sounds kind of fancy. So why does it actually matter though? Because, Chase, don't be so naive. For one, it makes it easier for buyers to plan a home purchase with clear-cut tax deductibility rules. And two, it lowers the cost of home ownership for new buyers and refi customers. Yeah, I know, it sounds nice, right? So, if you're doing one of your fun lunch and learns and you're looking for hot content to make for your social media, boom! Take advantage of your tax-deductible mortgage insurance. Cool, that was interesting, right? Probably wasn't for you, but I have to do it anyway. Anyway, we have Edwin. Edwin, woo! Welcome, man. I'm really glad you're actually here. We haven't hung out in a while, and that sort of bothers me. So my ploy was to get you here, get you on the show, then I could be like, hey, by the way, you want to hang out again, dude, or whatever?
I was like, let me go to the show, because that way I can get to see Chase, and then I can guilt trip him a little bit.
About not hanging out?
About not hanging out, yeah.
It's really kind of my fault. It is my fault. You've invited me places.
It's all good. It's all good. We're all busy, so.
I know, but I hate using that as a crutch. Don't you always hate that guy who's always like, oh, I got things happening, man. Fuck you, man.
It's all
Fuck
good.
Me,
well,
Chase.
Here we are.
Hey,
we made it happen.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
it's true.
we thought about it, and maybe it's not at a bar.
Where we're getting hammered.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's true. Most of our greatest conversations, neither of us really remember, by the way. It's just
half of them.
Nature of the beast.
But some of them not. Yeah. I'll admit.
It's true. But anyway, I'm glad you're here, man. I know a lot about you, but I would like everyone else to get to know you, because what you do is something that I want to do with my life, and especially in the age of fucking phones right now, we're all taking TikToks and videos and whatever. I think it'd be really interesting to have somebody on who actually has a background in not only filmmaking and documentary, but works in video marketing, correct?
Yeah, and so currently I make advertisement for a living.
Okay, yeah.
But I started off as a filmmaker. And so I went to UCSD, got, my bachelor's in visual arts media.
Boom. Hang on. I don't want you to glaze over that. I actually want to ask you, how do you feel about having gotten a college education from a university for filmmaking?
I still think it was one of the best decisions that I ever made.
Radical. Most people don't say that, but that's radical.
It completely changed and redefined my perspective and my approach to filmmaking. And all of those professors and all of that cumulative knowledge that they have, that they bestowed on me, now I carry that with me everywhere I go. And I'm only a better filmmaker because of them.
This is a dumb question. Do you, you trusted your professors to give you knowledge, or having had experience with this, to give you that knowledge, not necessarily from a book, but that personal, because you know what I mean? It's a highly creative venture, and it's, you can go to, even for let's just say, for instance, Photoshop, there is a defined way to use it. You know what I mean? Yeah. There are different ways of going about getting whatever it is, getting from point A to point B, but there is this is this tool, and you'll use the brush tool to do this. Yeah. But with filmmaking, it feels like there's a lot less hard fact written in stone per se. Unless I'm wrong, tell me about that.
And so I think this is what's really interesting, and I think what a lot of students kind of like fail to see is that UCSD and their visual arts department, they're not teaching you how to be a craftsman. There's like two ways I think that you can approach this idea of like being a filmmaker. You can be a filmmaker that's the craftsman, that you can do all of those technical things, the lighting, the camera work, even some directing, but you can't really
it's like
that's very different from the thinking, from the theory.
Right. Okay.
And for UCSD, their department, it's the thinking, it's the theory. It's like, how do we get you in the right mindset of not making what everybody else is making it, not just to make it, but just so that, like, how do we let you express yourself, you know, in the best way possible, using theory, using a way
dope.
of thinking. And so that's like, they never, you know, I think Babette, who was my mentor, she's like, she was actually the first French female, she was the first female one of the first female cinematographers. She was from France, and she got accepted to some Lumiere like school, and she was the first. She was my mentor, and she taught me so much about the technicalities of that. But then most of the other professors, it's like, it's a theory. Like, you go learn how to use the camera. It's just buttons. It's just settings. You know, it's like, if you can't figure that out, you know, it's like, and so I do.
Then maybe you shouldn't do it.
I do. Yeah, no, I do appreciate that, and so I do. I do think there's a lot of value. A lot of. I hear a lot of filmmakers say like, oh, you don't need to go to school.
Of course, yeah. How many times have we all heard that?
And so you don't have to. You can learn and go do it and learn it yourself, and you can learn how to do all of the craftsmanship. But at the end of the day, like that's not the craftsmanship, the knowing how to set up the camera, the sound, the lighting. That's not the storytelling. The storytelling is in the, like, you know, you as a director telling the story, and how you do that comes from your, you know, that's the magic.
That's just
right
like
there.
that.
That's that undescribable thing that you were talking about.
Yeah, it's that, I hate using this phrase, but it's the X factor.
Yes. Yeah.
Seems so like branded. X factor.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so since then, you are, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I actually turn 30 tomorrow.
You turn 30 tomorrow?
Yep.
Are you having... why are we not partying together? Why have you not told me this?
I've yet to make some plans. I'm thinking Dave & Buster's, because I think I got to keep it family friendly. I don't know.
Oh,
you know,
man.
I'm one of those people that doesn't like to plan anything.
It's true. You do not like to plan.
You know,
he's so whimsical.
I'm one of those people that doesn't like to plan things for themselves. You know,
but for others, it's like yeah.
For other things, I mean, for my filmmaking, you know how.
Yeah. Oh my God.
How
dude,
thorough
this guy
I can.
is very thorough. I enjoy it. It's very refreshing, in my opinion. But yes, that is interesting. Okay, well, when you decide, please let me know, and I will be there. Check. Okay, so now that you graduated when you were what, 22?
20. I was 25 because I went to community college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So since then, what kind of bodies of work, before we get into marketing, like what kind of bodies of work?
So while I was at UCSD, I co-founded the Wimpasso Collective, which is a group of filmmakers that got together and essentially were like, we're really interested in telling socially motivated stories.
Dope.
And so how do we address social issues impacting like our communities? And so we did short films on different subjects, some subjects harder than others.
Of course, yeah.
But then we decided, okay, it's time for us to do our feature-length documentary.
Dope.
And that's when we were introduced to Aaron Frieder, who Aaron Frieder was filming the, I don't remember what event it was, but I think it was the protest right after Trump was elected.
Oh,
and he was going out to film and, you know, talking to people, asking them about what they thought. And he said, you know, my grandfather was a Holocaust survivor, and he fled Austria, you know, fleeing, you know, Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
And so he knew that his grandfather had an interview that had been done by the Shoah Foundation, which was established by Steven Spielberg.
Right.
And so he went and saw his grandfather's interview for the first time. He hadn't seen it before that.
Shit.
And he was very very emotional about that. And
Totally, I imagine so.
the
Fuck.
current climate, with Trump being elected and a lot of like anti-immigrant sentiment, he was like, why don't we make a film about sort of this issue, and I can kind of tie it to like my grandfather's journey.
Yeah, seeing that like line of similarity.
Yeah, because he fled from Austria, and then he was in Austria, and then Poland, and then from Poland, Russia, and then Russia, Japan, Canada, and then he ended up in New York, and he was 17 when he did that.
Jesus.
And he tells us a story about how, he was in New York and he had no money, he barely knew the language, sometimes
Damn.
he didn't eat anything, and how much he had a lot of regret about his not being able to get his parents out. They were still mailing each other, but he was like 17, maybe like at that time he was 18, but trying to like figure out like how do I get my parents out of
Totally,
out of Austria,
yeah,
right?
dude, yeah.
And so I don't want to assume that the contact stopped, but he said, him being in New York, like he couldn't really do much. He joined the army, and so he actually went back to fight the
Nazis.
through our country. But it's a very very touching story. He came back, made his family. He was never able to find his parents. But what we did was we sort of listened to that story and looked at that story, and then also looked at the story of some Haitian immigrants that had left Brazil and essentially made a journey all the way up 13 countries to TJ.
Damn.
And so our team went down to TJ, and we started it was a few months of research, finding a family that we thought we could work with and follow them. And so we found two families. One of the main characters in the documentary is Faniel, who's this 15-year-old kid. And they're living essentially in like the slum of TJ right next to the border.
Fuck.
And sort of following that story, another man, his name's Richard, and his story is sort of being at our border and trying to claim asylum, I think.
Right.
But we were kind of looking at those stories as well as the story of DACA recipients who were, if you guys aren't familiar with DACA recipients,
I hope you are.
They are kids that were brought here legally by their parents, like as infants, who weren't citizens.
Right.
And so now they're fighting, now with the current immigrant.
Huge. Yeah, it's a huge part of political discussion right now.
Yeah.
I mean, like just last night was a Democratic debate in Vegas, and that was a heated area of conversation, which was really interesting, even for Democrats.
Yeah, immigration is still a very important topic, and we thought that would be a great subject to tackle. And
totally.
So it was a 2-year project. We did the rough cut. We had the showing of the film. Right now we're still doing some more edits to it, but we're thinking about screening it at other universities.
It's amazing,
but
man.
that's just one project. Right after that, we went down to Yucatan and then adapted stage play by this lady named Conchi Leon, who's actually kind of like becoming a big name in Mexico.
Oh, no
she
shit.
does plays. And what she did was she documented the story of she documented stories of indigenous women's. But what she did was she made a stage play out of 3 of those stories. And so what we did is we adapted that to a film. And so I just like a little less than a year ago, I just got back from Yucatan for making that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and that was great. That was that's filmmaking. Yeah.
How long is that piece?
It's an hour-long film.
Hour-long film.
Yeah, and I've already seen the rough cut, and it was great.
That's
It was,
radical, man.
It was an adventure. It was amazing.
It
was amazing.
Of course, it sounds like it. Shoot.
Yeah.
So now you're on the cusp of 30. You know what I mean? And you've got what? You've got 2 major creative pieces. I'll just put it that way under your belt. For people out there who are, let's just say they're 26 years old, they're sitting in a podcast room right now talking about us, kidding. Say that there's just people out there who want to know what it's like. How do you get into that? You know what I mean? Like because it's so easy for you to like, it sounds stupid, but so easy for you to just say like, we found these 2 families, or we, like, how do you even get down to Yucatan?
I'm oversimplifying a lot, but I'll tell you this much: it wasn't easy. It's a shit ton of work.
Oh, yeah.
that goes into it. It's like months and months of looking for the right people and of talking to people and hundreds and hundreds of hours of interview and footage and. For the editing, we had to have like a week-long retreat where all we did was look at the footage and evaluate it, and it's a lot of work, which is why it's very important to choose to make films about things that you're really passionate about.
Right.
Because if you're kind of passionate about it, or if it's kind of a hobby, that's great. Maybe make a short, but to put your like time and your mental energy and resources into making something like a feature-length documentary or a film takes a huge toll, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of thinking. It's
the
a lot
first three things that he always told me when we were working together, which is like, just do research, man. Just start with research. Think about it a lot. And it's pretty much like my number one creed at this point right now. In fact, we had another podcast about creativity, and one of the first, I don't know if I directly mentioned you, but I was like, a friend of mine always told me, just like, fucking research, man. This is that guy, by the way. Yeah, so I think that's really important just for people to understand. I mean, I think generally the Gen Pop understands like filmmaking, whether it be documentary or movie or cinematic or wherever you want to draw your lines, it takes a long time, but to understand just how much it's more than just time. It's like that emotional heaviness that you have to like continually have it to keep a project going. I mean, like that's intensely laborious.
Yeah, no, I think that like imagining slaving away, like literally, because it felt like that, slaving away for 2 years to make something that nobody sees this until you show it on a screen.
Yeah.
And all of that work and all of the the stress that comes with that, and you just after 2 years where you're just like, we got to show something.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's a lot of, you have to do a lot of work that nobody's going to see.
Right.
And you have to be okay with it. I think that the last thing that you should be worried about is about not the people that are going to see it, but I think that the people don't, I don't want to say that the people don't matter.
Right.
But that comes secondary.
But fuck them. Just kidding.
that comes secondary to me. To me, it's about that film that I'm making. It's about that for me, the way I see it, it's an organism. It's a living thing. And so for me, you gotta make sure you nourish that the right way.
Right.
And then you just let it go. Let people experience that.
Right. Yeah. Experience that.
Yeah.
That's a good catchphrase, man. Which brings me to the next point I wanted to talk about, which is it's not like your prime source of income. You know what I mean? So what else?
I did get some payment, but it wasn't proper. It's independent filmmaking. I'm not making.
You're not just like cashing the fuck out right
I don't
now.
have Paramount or Sony or Universal Studios here giving us money for that. But if we wait for that to happen, then we're never gonna make a film.
Of course, no, it totally makes sense. So what do you do in your spare time, in your free time?
And so right now what I'm doing is I am making video advertisements. And so all of the advertisements that you see on social media, Facebook, Instagram, those types of ads, I'm actually making them. And that's
what we do.
And what's so great, I think, about the opportunity to be making these advertisements that get put on social media like Instagram and Facebook is that we get to test those videos and we get to see results. Back in the day, I'm sure you've talked about this maybe. Back in the day, you would make a commercial, put it on TV, and just have a whole bunch of people see it and just hope that it worked.
Right.
You couldn't really tell if
it was actually garnering any sort of like attention or getting leads or whatever, depending on what your business is. But yeah.
Yeah. And so now it's different. Now you can throw a video out there. Most people are on social media, and you can see a result. Like
Right.
Facebook tools allow us to track like, oh, like if we want to like, are we getting the likes, or are we
Right,
making a
yeah.
sale if that's what we want?
Right.
And that's actually informing me what kind of videos people
Are
like,
enjoying,
what kind of
yeah.
what kind of videos people want to see. And so it's very interesting to see what people you'd be surprised to learn what people don't like, or what they don't
What don't
trust
they
and
like?
what don't they like. I think this is just in general, people just don't like commercials.
Yeah.
People don't like
Yeah.
advertisements.
Of course
you know?
not. Fuck a commercial.
I think right now it's all about authenticity. It's like how can you make an advertisement that's authentic, that's like speaking to people with as much authenticity as possible. Like it's not fake, nobody's acting, you're not, this isn't an actor. It's like someone experiencing your product or your service for real, and sort of seeing the result.
What ad would you say right now, off the top of your head, does that? Because I'll tell you right now which one has been on my mind for a long time.
Does that? What do you mean?
What ad is like authentic to you, where it's like no actors per se, like there's an actual experience going into this advertisement?
I was looking at, and in this advertisement was talked about Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez's advertisement for her running for her district, and actually that's very well shot. It's got a little bit of a handheld aesthetic that's really well shot, but the story and like how she talks to her people, that's a great advertisement. And actually,
I haven't seen that.
Bernie Sanders right now, whoever is making, I don't know if it's true right now still, but I know that Bernie Sanders' campaign used the same person that used
who did that ad.
the person that did that ad.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think I know which one you're talking. I know what Bernie ads you're talking about, but I don't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, those
the other
advertisements are pretty great. Those people are authentic. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez scares me, to be honest, but she's really passionate about what she believes and about what she's doing.
Totally.
And so I think that authenticity comes out in what she does and in her advertisement, and that works.
There you go. That's authenticity to you. Do you think that like authenticity is like sort of, is it like a fine line, or is it just like...
No, authenticity can be many different things, I think. Authenticity to your character, authenticity to your values can be different. Sure. Authenticity to the moment is another thing. Authenticity can be many, many different things. And so I think that if there's one key word that I always think about when I'm making my advertisements, it's like, how can I make them authentic? Like, how can that authenticity be there?
Yeah.
Rather than fake it.
Totally. No, I totally understand that. I will say, like, the Super Bowl ad for Google, of all people, they did that Loretta ad.
I didn't see the ads.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I did not.
Well, then do you even like marketing, dude?
I should see them, but we don't make those types of ads. We kind of figured out our own way of making advertisements.
Well, who do you do advertisements for, if you don't mind me asking?
What kind of products?
Yeah,
services?
Products, yeah.
We do, for example, AirTV Mini, which is a product by Dish, which is kind of like a Fire Stick, for example.
Oh, gotcha.
And what we did with that was we were just like, it's just this girl going like, hey guys, I just got my AirTV and here's how you plug it in, and like, this is my favorite channels and this is what I like watching. Very simple. Sometimes we film the advertisements with phones.
That's
dope. Because that's just that's the way people are used to seeing like authentic.
Most of the video.
Yeah, the authenticity can be using your phone instead of a huge DSLR $10,000 camera.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. No, that totally makes sense.
I work with a bunch of different products and services, and so it just depends.
Depends on
the approach always changes.
That's rad. How did you go from filmmaking to marketing?
So for me, it was very but for me, it was very necessary to make the filmmaking sustainable. And how do I do that? I learned the marketing. And I don't think I realized it until I got hired to work for this company. They're like, we need to make these videos, and it's like, these are going to get tested. And that was the first time I was introduced to this idea of like having your videos tested. Because how it used to be is that you just made the video and you just hope people liked it.
Right.
Now it's different. Now it's like within a couple of days I know if the advertisement is working or not.
That's dope.
And so it was like, I'm like, wow, this is really challenging, because now it doesn't matter how beautiful I can make the product look, or These things.
Does someone want to watch this?
The craftsmanship doesn't matter. It's all about the way I tell the CEOs, like, it's all about the theory.
Right.
You know, it's all about that. And one of the concepts is authenticity.
Of course.
Another concept is believability. You know, like,
of course.
Is it simplicity is another concept.
Yeah, I think that gets overlooked as well.
Yeah.
Like, simplicity gets overlooked in a big way.
Yeah, making sure that, like, a lot of advertisements, you'll see an advertisement and you won't know what they're selling or what the product is, or they won't even tell you to do anything.
Right.
It's brand awareness, but still, it's like, you know,
it's better. It's almost. It's better to have some sort of a call to action.
Yeah.
Which is important because at least you're like, right. Brand awareness is dope.
Yeah.
I think companies like Progressive and Geico probably do brand awareness.
Here's the thing, though,
great.
with brand awareness, I think most companies can't really afford to do brand awareness.
No, of course not.
Most companies can't. Yeah, no, it's expensive. To do that,
gotta get
you know,
bring in the ducats. You know what I mean? I mean, it's the whole point of marketing for the most part. So
yeah, no, for sure.
That's interesting, man. Shoot, how do you like marketing? Like, really though?
To be honest, I've been spending a lot of time reading on literature on marketing. I've been reading a lot of Seth Godin's literature. This is marketing, permission marketing, and I really do enjoy it. I enjoy learning about what motivates people to buy things. Right now, it is that, you know, a part of my journey is learning how to make advertisements, commercials,
right,
that are gonna sell a product. Totally. But to me, it's so valuable to learn, to have the theory of learning how to sell something or how to persuade someone to want something, because then I can come and apply it to my filmmaking,
right,
to what I'm making. And once I can combine these two things, then I feel like that'll make me unstoppable.
It's a very interesting and special place to be if you can do that in the right way. Yeah. Totally, I totally understand that.
I'm constantly learning, like, though. It's very important, I think, for me to constantly be learning, constantly be reading about. I'll read about something completely different. Like, I was watching the master class. I was going to tell you about this.
Yeah, so we share a masterclass account, and I will go on there and I'll see where he's at on some shit, and it's fucking hilarious. Because there's some where, like, you can tell we liked it for maybe like an episode or two, like the Natalie Portman one.
Are you watching what I'm watching, and then if I watch it through, you'll watch it through?
I gotta watch the whole thing.
Bob Iger Masterclass is a great.
It's amazing. It's totally worth the money. When I first saw the price, I was like, fuck that. And then I started actually watching some, and it's a bummer because the first one I ever watched was Kevin Spacey, and I'd openly admit that his information was really incredibly helpful for when I was first getting into acting and being in front of the camera. Since then, he's obviously a mega creep and a terrible person, so they removed that one. But there are some other acting ones on there. Natalie Portman's was all right. I didn't get through it, actually, to be honest, because I wasn't, like, thrilled by it.
That's a good resource. If you're trying to become, or if you're trying to pursue filmmaking, I think you definitely check out Masterclass.
Yeah,
they got Martin Scorsese in there, Ron Howard. Yeah, I've gone through those. And I highly advise, look at the other content too, like Bob Iger's masterclass on entrepreneurship or just business.
Yeah, I think it was just like business.
The ex-CEO of Starbucks has
I didn't see that
has a class too. But what I was saying was the Hans Zimmerman.
Hans Zimmer.
I don't play music. I don't do music, but I was like, how can I use his discipline, his theory, his way of thinking, and apply it to what I'm doing right now? And I found so much useful information. Listening to him talk about his craft. Yeah,
he was really interesting because to talk about something that isn't so there aren't like hard defined lines in music, and how you can use it or how he uses it. But you're right. He had one of those where it made it easily definable for you, the listener. I mean, I actually play music, so it was helpful. But the layman could hear that and go, I understand this, and I could probably put this in, if you wanted to, use it in my own creative work outside of music. And I totally agree that Hans Zimmer had a fucking great series. Start with his, by the way. It's massively
and they
intriguing.
keep adding content too, so it's a great investment.
Yeah, totally.
It's
Please
a great
do
investment.
it. Masterclass, give us that sponsorship. And then please don't let us pay anymore. But yeah, we legitimately share the account, which is really funny and really cute, kind of, you know what I mean?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. But yeah, so tell me about that, because I know we were talking about this before the podcast even started. What were you going to say about that?
About the masterclass?
Yeah.
Well, with the masterclass I kind of see it very similar to the way I see Chef's Table.
Which is also something that he showed me.
It's something that there's a couple of things that I always tell people they have to do, and maybe that's just my thing that only I don't understand, but I don't think so. Chef's Table, masterclass, and then also, if you're not familiar with Joseph Campbell and the Power of the Myth, you need to watch that. Particularly if you're not a spiritual person. I'm not a spiritual person at all whatsoever, but it's kind of like the same sort of thinking that I'm telling you,
right,
about grabbing someone else's knowledge and how do you apply that to what you're doing or what or what your values are.
Where can I watch that?
Joseph Campbell was available on Netflix, and I think they just took it off.
Fuck.
But he's so good. Like, I mean, the guy so essentially he studied mythology throughout all of civilizations, and what this guy did was he found all of the similarities between the myths that we shared, in our different cultures, and was amazed to find how in a completely different continent, a tribe would have a very specific ritual that in a completely different continent at a completely different time, that civilization, that tribe also had that same.
That's bizarre.
That's super. His approach is academic, but
right,
it feels very poetic. But that's something But going back to the masterclass and the Chef's Table, it's like looking at these people that have mastered their craft and learning about each one of their journeys. And even with the masterclass is a little bit more academic and technical, but you still get to hear about how they got there.
Yeah, which it invigorates you for sure.
Yeah. But I think hearing other people's journeys on how they got to where they are, I think that's very important. That's why I like listening to all those different masterclasses.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, look, guys, we are pretty much, I don't want to make this run super long because I know our previous episodes have been fucking long. So, and I know we have lives to live. But I wanted to just bring on Edwin and kind of set for you guys a standard for if you're like trying to get into marketing, or specifically, one thing you will not get away from in marketing in 2020 is video and beyond, because it's just kind of the way that we digest information, as we can see. So I wanted to bring Edwin on to talk about how, he uses how he has filmmaking as sort of like a home base for what makes the passion run round, which, to be honest, at this point, you and I have both, we kind of ran that same route. We're both in marketing, but the end goal is filmmaking at a much higher level. What would be the dream? Real quick, what would be your dream right now?
I've been mostly the producer for the feature-length films that we've done. Everyone's telling me I need to step up and be the director now. But it's a little bit hard because I'm always a producer. The producer has to make sure that everything gets done, and so I need to find a good producer so that I can focus on the directing.
It's true. No, it's true.
Yeah.
I think that you should be directing too, if that's any constant.
Well, I'm hoping that it's going to be your first short script.
I know.
Once you finish.
Hopefully I can one day debut our short film that I would like to be writing and write myself into it as the main character. But anyway, sorry. That's rad though, dude. I'm glad that I got to have you on today to talk about this, because filmmaking is such like an abstract concept to a lot of people who want to get into it or even are in it. And to be able to have you come on, you're fucking young. I know you're about to turn 30, but you're still so fucking young, dude. Like, there's so much room in front of you to fucking do so many great things, and I wish great things for you. Of course, and hopefully I can get my act together on some of this shit. And I really hope you guys learned a little bit too, just like, where do I start? Where do we begin? I mean, shit, we talked about like several places where you can start learning today. I don't care what age you are, man. It's doable. You know what I mean? It's definitely doable. It's just, it's part of deciding in your life where you want to start or where you want to be in your career. And this isn't something that you should be taking lightly per se, you know, as with all careers. But I mean, filmmaking takes a lot out of you, both emotionally and spiritually, if you're into that kind of shit, and time-wise and energy, you know? And I've chosen that path. I think that's obvious for both of us. Might not be for you, but shit, maybe you can use something today that you've learned from, maybe not me, but Edwin, and apply into your own scenario. So that's all I got. Edwin, anything else to give to the peoples out there?
I guess my last piece of advice with the filmmaking is that, like, to not forget that, like, even if you are the director or the filmmaker, it's always about the people. It's always about the you have to really care about, if you're making a documentary about someone, it's ultimately about them, and you respect you respect the people.
Right.
I think that's very important.
I dig that.
Yeah.
It's definitely true. A lot of actors say that same thing. Like, don't try to do the part for you. Do it for the script, because it's for the viewer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to fully step into it. So anyway, thanks, man. Thanks for coming. Let's go get a fucking drink. Please, please like, comment, subscribe. I don't know. Is that even worth saying anymore? Just, if you want to keep seeing this kind of stuff, just stick around, man. We got lots more coming. We have lots of videos already. We're on the cusp of getting everything on Spotify, so you don't have to necessarily watch this. You can be in the car and listening to it. And that's it, man. See you next time. Hopefully with Greg. Later.